Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, this Mexican mayor was decapitated in this particular city. Then another mayor in another particular city became the victim of the cartelinist violence, along with various political and non-political figures and regular type people in Mexico. How dare the U.S. borders supposed to be protected? Right? That is some beyond nerve, right? That you have various types of pro-border breaker legal immigrant entities, organizations, various political figures, etc. People playing, oh, it's humanity. We must not have borders. But at the same time, this major cartelinist violence that's tearing up various parts of Mexico, left and right. And what do you think that violence is also going to? It's also going into various parts of El Norte, the United States. And again, you got numbers of the same type of people I just mentioned. They really do think various types of citizens, and especially American blacks, they really do think people are stupid. This cartelinist violence is not any kind of game to be played with whatsoever. And the thing about it is you have many numbers of personnel in various parts of Mexico and some other people, don't get it confused, that are breaking border immigration laws every day. Oh my goodness, why are you trying to come to the United States? Oh, well, we're trying to escape violence. By whom? By people that look like that personnel, like the cartelinists, right? But at the same time, when you start talking about, hey, well, Black Americans been over in America for centuries and dealing with Black pain, right? Various political figures coming up with racial terrorism laws and policies, various types of racial terrorism things going on for various parts of predominant culture for centuries into present day against Black Americans, the ones it applies to, right? And then you got these various types of groups thinking that they want to be like certain people within the Panamanian culture, showing some type of hatred as well, right? But at the same time, Black America is supposed to be the openness for people, right? Just like the Mexicanos and other people that's come across the border from Mexico. But specifically for this topic, various types of Mexicanos trying to escape various types of violence going over in Mexico by people that look like them. But Black America is supposed to get over the past, right? Right? Don't get me wrong now. It's a sad situation going on over there called Mexico, because it is out of control. The violence by the cartelinists. Again, but who are the people that are doing this over there? People that look like Mexicanos, right? Oh, many don't like to see that kind of reality, but have the nerve to be in America, the ones applies to breaking border immigration laws, sitting there playing immigration tactics, the ones applies to, and trying to show hatred toward American blacks. The nerve, right? But let's just go ahead and share my screen, because see, this is what many other personnel across that border. I'm not even talking about the Afro-Mexicanos. We're not going to talk about how they've been treated and how many numbers of non-Black Mexicanos. They don't want to talk about that. But see, this is what many want the border to be like, right? Yeah. See, this is what they want the border to be like. Just open borders. But do you think Black Americans can do this in reverse? Do you know how quick and fast that they'll get kicking out Black Americans, let alone even numbers of Caucasianness, Anglos, Let them try to break immigration laws in Mexico and see what happens. They be like, oh, no. You ain't going to do that. But you have however personnel across that border that once applies to, that think it's okay to have open borders coming to El Norte and to sit there and accept this. How many of these people are cartelling this type people? You got numbers of cartels and the people using what, drones? What? How many of them are using these boats? Huh? But do you hear anything about those boats being annihilated, like however numbers of little small boats off the coast of Venezuela that's supposed to be accused of bringing over illegal drug substances way over there by Venezuela? But at the same time, you have a massive problem what cartelling is going on across that southern border. Right? So let's go ahead and share my screen and play this particular initial video. All right, let me make sure my mute is off. Okay, good. All right. Let me get rid of that part. Maximize.
You sent us a couple of 2 or 3 folks. It's amazing to me, Oscar, because you come on here, you put your life at risk. You report on this. You had State Senator Lily Tellez on, who's calling out the cartels. We have 3, and we'll go through one at a time. We're going to put a picture up. Mayor Alejandro Arcos. Oscar, tell the folks what happened to this man.
Well, it has been a hard week. It has been a really difficult week in Mexico. He was brutally assassinated. During this week, several political figures have been assassinated, and the violence keeps.
What did he just say? Hold on. Let's go back here to that last part again. Can't go past that fast.
He was brutally assassinated. During this week, several political figures have been assassinated, and the violence keeps escalating. And what has been happening in Mexico is that the people are completely upset. The cartel and the organized crime are, they're doing this. And the actual government, it is only releasing statements saying that it's illegal. The president of Mexico said that it was illegal to go against a war against the cartels. The president of Mexico.
Let's not go past that fast either.
Mexico said that it was illegal to go against a war against the cartels, and that is illegal. The president of Mexico said that it was illegal to go against a war against the cartels. That basically tells us who has.
Stop there. Say that again. The Scheinbaum has said it's illegal for the government to go against. Tell us about that.
Yes, it was statements, and it was a completely shocker after the mayor, Carlos Manzo, was assassinated. On the next morning conference, they were pressuring her to go to war against the cartels. And she said, it is illegal to go to war against the cartels. We knew that that kind of response was going to come, but we did not know that she was going to be that blunt to say.
Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Now, Scheinbaum got into office, and it's all kind of, yay, right? The first woman, the first white Mexicano, by the way, let's not get it confused. The first white Mexicano woman to ever be the president of Mexico. At the same time, what is rarely talked about, people, she's not only the first white Mexicano woman to be elected to office, parentheses, she's also the first Jewish woman to be elected to office. And you had Harvard numbers of feminists, Harvard numbers of womenness across the southern borders, Harvard numbers of women across Harvard different places. Yay! We got a woman there in president Mexico. She's gonna change, feminist, woman power, women empowerment. And look what's going on right now. Look what's going on right now. In her background, mother and father, one of them is Ashkenazi Jewishism, and the other one is a Sephardicism of Jewishism. Now, even though you still got people that still don't think when people say Jewish is not a race, oh, the heck it is. It is a type of race mixed in with Judaism. See, the system knows that there are some naive type people that don't know those kind of tactics. Even though there's numbers of Chinese people that are Jewish people, there are numbers of people in different other countries that are Jewish people, or they practice Judaism faith. Okay, many the true type of people that play certain type of tactics, they're like, we don't care about that. We're telling you from what we want to sit there and utilize this as of saying, if you sit there and say anything against Jewishism, you are anti-Semitic. You see how that tactic goes, right? You say, what does a Semitic look like? Semitic is not a look of a people. Beyond the logical part, it's not. It's supposed to be practicing the Judaism faith. And this is the part that people still keep getting confused on. This is what it should be about, right? Since some other people practice the Judaism faith, right? But at the same time, it has been transformed, right, to a certain look of a people, a certain thought pattern of a people. And then if you sit there and go against however certain section of the sectionality of the personnel, you are called anti-Semitic, right? Look at this. I don't want to go into all that, but look at the situation going on, the Epstein situation. High quietness. You don't hear people talking about, well, he's Jewishism too. Nope. See, people know when to sit there and bring up the Jewishism and when to sit there and say, nope, we ain't going to talk about the Jewishism part of it. You see how that situation goes. What, you would think there's no Black Americans that also don't practice Judaism faith? Oh, but I guess they're not Jewish people, right? I don't want to go into all that, right? I want to go into all that.
Yep, and it actually tells you who runs the country.
Is there any sort of constitutional edict that says you can't go after criminal cartels?
It is not illegal to go against them. You know, these people are decapitating, dismembering. These people are extortioning, kidnapping. What is illegal about them that it doesn't make the Mexican citizens to demand we need security, we need this catastrophe and this crisis to end? And because of that, there is going to be a massive protest on the 15th of November.
Oh, by the way, today is November the 17th, 2025. So there's been some few protests. That's a whole different topic and things like that. But interesting how when Black Americans, right, within the U.S., protest against bad seed brutality, right? Those bad seeds that are allowed to be hired in certain sections, right? It's allowed to do that in certain places, right? The bad seed versions. Interesting that you still got racial racism, terrorist type people that think like the KKK, which the mentality ain't left nowhere. There are many various types of towns and various types of cities in the U.S. You best believe that daily Black Americans have to deal with racial racism, terrorism. But you got people that be like, why Black people got to bring up about racism? And people like that can go to Hades. See, there are people that's been going through Black pain for centuries. And you got, unfortunately, some black skin cosplaying type tethers who ran from their particular countries, right? Unfortunately, you got some numbers of people from various parts of the beautiful Caribbean. I'm talking about the ones it applies to, because there's some good ones from the Caribbean. There are some good ones from various parts of Africa. But the problem is that the system only allows a few decent ones, right? They said, no, we ain't gonna allow the ones that are decent, that would probably talk with Black Americans who will set the foundation for men to come over. No, we want the coons and salads to come from those places. We want the ones that have an eternal self-hatred. Oh, it's quite a number of them, right? That they'll play black when they want to play black, and they'll switch off and say, no, we are this particular Caribbean place, or we are over here, or we are over from some other tribe situation in various parts of Africa, or some country in Africa. You see how that game goes, right? But when it's something about trying to get some beneficiality, then, oh, we're Black. But you see how these games go. It's consistently things going on toward Black Americans. But Black Americans are told, hey, you know what? You're supposed to be the humanity type people. You're supposed to be the most openest people, right? So situation going on in Mexico, just all kind of violence, all kind of heartache, all kind of murdering going on left and right in various parts of Mexico, right? And how much still discrimination is still going on toward the Afro Hispanics. Oh, you still got people don't talk enough about that. But again, Black Americans are told to get over the past. Stop talking about race. But in this situation, you got high numbers of Mexicans saying, hey, we're tired of corruption. We're tired of various parts of bad seats over there. Right? We're tired of these people not trying to protect the Mexicanos. He said, but who they look like? They look like various other Mexicanos. You see how this game goes. But at the same time, they want to have the opportunity to come to El Norte, the ones this applies to, and break immigration laws. Numbers of border break illegal immigrant women, right? Coming over here 6 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant, right? Almost about to bounce out another child, right? While having 2 or 3 already with them, going across that border, coming to the hospital, sitting at clinics, getting free pregnancy care. Bam, baby pops out, right? Used as a pawn. Bam, automatic citizenship based upon the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that was specifically supposed to be about Black Americans in around 1868, who still wasn't being treated as citizens, even though they had already been citizens from having their own created unique culture that nobody else compares to going through. Right? But people benefit off the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, right? Bam, automatic citizenship. No matter what, this came over yesterday. Have a baby, bam, automatic citizenship. This came over here 2-3 months ago, pregnant, bam, have a baby, automatic citizenship. The nerve, what a slap in the face toward millions of American Blacks and American Black ancestors who have lost their lives fighting to be treated as citizens. Do you understand? This is insulting. But at the same time, look at the situation. Oh, Sheinbaum, right? First woman president in Mexico. First Jewish woman in Mexico, right? And you see how that newness of, oh yeah, woman power, empowerment for women. You see how that wears off. That's wearing out fast now, right?
You know, the people are sick and tired, Eric. They're extremely exhausted, extremely tired about this.
The gentleman we just had up there, he was murdered by the cartels. I'm told he was found his body was in a car, but his head was on top of the car.
Decapitated.
What? But at the same time, you got in various parts of America that love to be talking about, oh my goodness, Black American males, so violent, murder. 99.99999% of Black males people don't commit murders, man. And what about the white on white criminality murders? What about that? What about numbers of the ones within the Panamanian culture who have murdered Black folks? Huh? You don't talk about that. You don't talk about that. You don't talk about the most people who commit the most crimes in America is personnel within various parts of Panamanian culture. The ones it applies to. You don't talk about that. See how that game goes, right? And it's disgusting because it is allowed for that stupid game to continue to be played. But you look at Mexico, please, you're talking about almost like within the top 3 or 4 most violent places, right? In overall violence is in Mexico. The nerve of some people to trying to look at Black American males, especially when the majority of Black American males, 98.99999% of the time, do not commit murders. Do you understand that? How many are constructive? How many are doing their things? How many will sit there and building their lives, building family lives up? If they are solo, they're just taking care of their own self, doing their thing. They don't want to talk about things, the constructive type Black males like that. You see how that game goes. They want to sit there and say, oh, look at the bad version of hip hop. What about the other music over these generations that Black American males have created that had nothing to do with bad versions of hip hop? But they don't want to talk about that part because they also know it's not enough Black Americans, especially numbers of males, to be putting people back in their place. They're saying they ain't finna have all this one-sided conversation, right? and all this little anti-blackness, right? By these various ass groups, they can go to HELL too. Because especially the ones that fled their own countries, because they couldn't sit there and take care of their own problems in their own countries by people that look like them. That personnel can go to hell. The ones that this applies to, that come over here and have the nerve talking about Black Americans, but they couldn't get nothing done right in their own countries. Man, don't go to hell for the ones who play that kind of tactic. So they look at Black Americans, and Black Americans overall are not some people that go off on people, like, go off on and fighting people left and right. They don't do that. Right? And these other people coming across, fleeing their own countries, having a scamming mentality, having a get over people mentality, right? Have a line mentality of what can they sit there and do to sit there and get over other people mentality. And then you throw in the ones that have some skin of Black, right? So that goes cosplaying Black American. And I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters who are not necessarily Black Americans, but they come from certain parts of the beautiful Caribbean, certain parts of the ancient continent of Africa, but they are humble, right? Those are very small amount, because the system, again, is not going to allow quite a number of them to come over that's going to be humble. No, they'll allow the ones that come over to have an anti-American Black hatred, right? Because they're jealousy and animosity toward American Blacks, because American Blacks don't flee, right? Just like the situation going in Mexico. Oh, you got some jealous Mexicanos. Don't get confused. There are numbers of Mexicanos in various parts of California. Oh my goodness, man. That I've sit there, I've done some videos put like that, where you had some of these numbers of Mexicanos up in various parts of California that have showed nothing but pure hatred toward Black Americans. The ones it applies to. The one at the LA City Council, right? That for the people who know, that she was showing blatant anti-American Black hatred on the LA City Council, and some of her cohort Mexicanos, right? They wish they were white. They wish they were Caucasians, right? Bad. But they know it never will be. So they got to sit there and say, oh my goodness, well, we got to show hate to somebody. Well, okay, we'll show hate to the Black Americans, because they really are not known to sit there and putting us in our places. Yes, it was the LA City Council president, a woman, Hispanic, or her vile self, talking anti-American Black hatred. And then some of her cohorts, Mexicano type of brethren males, the ones it applies to, speaking some anti-American Black hatred. The list goes on of numbers of type of Hispanics, the ones that have shown and believe in anti-American Black hatred, right? But they'll sit there and talk to Black Americans, say, you're my brothers, right? We're people of color, we're minorities. So how that game goes, right? Where you got various parts of Mexico just going to fireness with blatant extreme poverty, right? No, Mexicanos trying to figure out how to sit there and live their lives. The place this applies to, right?
Yeah, decapitated. It was a message. Specifically, it hasn't been the first one that they do this. And, this is why Donald Trump designated the cartels as terrorists. This is what they do. If they want to really send a message to politicians that they are not aligned with the policies or what the cartel really wants, how to run a state, how to run a city, they will do this kind of things. And they will send a message to the next one that is potentially going to take place on possession of whatever municipal city they're governing.
All right, let's take a look at another one you have here, folks. Control room. We have another picture of another person who's murdered, also working for the government. Tell us about this one, guys. The John with the head.
Hermenegildo Vasquez. Yes, he was. Man, he was just a public servant in the municipal city in Mexico, and he got intercepted outside of his home by armed men. And he tried to, he was pushing and shoving with them, and he got shot in front of his home.
But at the same time, right? Well, I mean, we got to have open borders, right? But again, how dare the U.S. borders are just not supposed to be protected, right? You try to go to the Israelness and try to play that tactic and say, well, you need to let the numbers of Palestinians, even though they're latecomers, right? That's a whole different topic in itself. It's a blatant salivating in front of Black American faces who don't know that kind of tactic. right? We call Palestinians. That's later coming to that area called Canaanite. They're latecomers, right? And how many of them showing blatant anti-Black American? Well, numbers of them show anti-Black American hatred. How many of them show anti-Black? We talking about skin color version, right? Anti-Black Palestinian discrimination. Oh, see, many people want to talk about that part, but they sit there and get in the faces of people. Oh my goodness, look at Israel and it's doing to the Palestinians, right? And you sit there and look at both sides. You say, wait a minute now. Do you sit there and see them jumping up and down in America saying, oh, we need to help the Black Americans get reparations, right? We need to have them get a anti-Black American hate crime law? No. You said that game goes, right?
He got killed and assassinated. This was 2 days after Carlos Manso was assassinated, the mayor of Uruapan. This is another public servant of our country of Mexico that has been assassinated in less than a week.
And then we have a third one. Let's take a look at this woman. Guys, put the picture up, please. Who is she?
Guadalupe Urban. She is a councilwoman, regidora in our country of Mexico. She also, exactly the same armed men appeared outside of her home, and she was forced to get into a car, and then later on was brutally shot, in the middle of the street, and her body was left lifeless. Guadalupe Urban, she is a councilwoman, regidora in our country of Mexico. She also, exactly the same armed men appeared outside of her home, and she was forced to get into a car, and then later on was brutally shot, in the middle of the street, and her body was left lifeless on the side of the road. Later on, she was found by the authorities and pronounced dead. All the people that you have shown, the cities are really concerned of the level of violence, of how they're going to increase. And let me just highlight something real quick, Eric. The former mayor that got assassinated, Carlos Manso, his wife stepped into the plate, and now she is the mayor. Ours, as she has stepped into the plate and become the mayor of Uruapan, she received 2 death threats, immediate death threats, to tell her, if you don't just stop, we will go after you immediately.
You mentioned this earlier. This coming Saturday, November 15th, Mexico City, there's a big, what is it? A protest. I mean, you got to be a little gutsy to show up at one of these protests. Now tell us about it.
Yes, the Gen Z, this is why the president of Mexico is extremely upset. These are young kids that they are tired. This is the young generation, that they're sick and tired about the extortioning, the kidnapping. One thing that I want to highlight, Eric, it is that all entrepreneurs and businesses, now they're not only thinking about how much they're going to spend on rent, how much they're going to spend on workers, but also they are putting on their weekly payment how much they're going to pay of extortion. And
I'm just going to stop right there. But at the same time, you got people that want Black Americans to come to people to rescue when they break immigration laws and come to America. But then you ask them, what are you going to do for Black Americans? You can do for them. Hold on for a second. Sorry about that. Give me a second. Something's going on in my system. See, I despise this because you'd be like, what is going on? I despise this very much. Give me a second. Because it's like the system, again, does not want things to be shown at all either, right? But again, if you ask the question, what are you going to do for Black Americans, right? That people want Black Americans to come to people's rescue and help them out. When the ones I'm explaining relating to break immigration laws, right? Trying to escape violence from their country, from people that look like them. You be like, what are y'all going to do then for Black Americans then, right? Wait, what will they do? Yes. It's what they do, right? Just like this situation here with this white Mexicano. Let the Negro fight his own battles. His problems are not mine. I don't want to ally with him. Felix Terragina, this white Mexicano American president of LULAC, 1956 to 1960. That ain't changed by quite a number of white Mexicanos and some other non-white, but they're pauper-looking Mexicanos, right? We not even talk about the Afro-Hispanics because it's not going to be that many in America in the first place, right? Or Afro-Mexicano versions, right? Because there are some Afro-Hispanics one supplies to that I don't go there. That's a whole different topic a little bit because there are some ones that got some stuff in there. And some people know what I'm talking about, right? That got a thing against Black Americans that they try to bite on, and well, we started hip hop and you know those kind of Afro Hispanics are. I'm not gonna say nothing with Afro. Well, anyway, they're pseudo Afro Hispanics, but at the same time not Afro Hispanics, right? So they try to play both sides. But the true Afro Hispanics, right, which is not going to be that many in America, it's not about them because numbers of them don't try to show blatant anti-American Black hatred, right? Or pseudo or direct one, right? But you see as white Mexicano, the hatred you see in this from Felix Terragina, right? There's numbers of them like that in America. And California is like ground zero for Mexicanos, right? You got people trying, how can we afford, you be like, go talk to your government. Go talk to the governor, right? Newsom. They looking the other way. I did a show already before on something else about how many border break illegal immigrants and immigration personnel, etc., are getting free college resources, getting freebies up there, right? Certain type of border break illegal immigrant type of older ones, how some of them getting cash payments, right? So it's an agenda going on with that part. But at the same time, they think that, well, black and brown coalition, when it's like there are Black people that got brown skin. You see this game. And you got certain ones within certain parts of Asianness, one supplies to. I don't want to go on that because those different topics, right? As if there's some kind of pan-Asian love in America, right? You don't sit there and hear South Koreans jumping them down with Vietnamese. You don't hear Vietnamese jumping them down with Sri Lankans jumping them down with Iranians. Yes, Iran is an Asian country. But you see how this game go. If you don't know the power of history, the power of the seeing through the tactics, observing through the tactics, people just tell them about anything when they say Asian, right? Because there's a certain look of Asian that they want people to have this mentality as, right? But there's no pan-Asian love in America like that. They don't talk to each other like that. They segregate themselves left and right? Just like various people from various parts of Africa. You don't sit there and hear various parts of Nigerians jumping over down with Moroccans. You don't hear a Moroccan jumping over down with numbers of South Africans. You don't hear numbers of South Africans jumping them down with Zimbabweans. You don't hear Zimbabweans jumping up and down with Ethiopians. You don't hear numbers of Ethiopians jumping up and down with Egyptians. You don't know numbers of Egyptians jumping up and down with Sudanese. You don't hear Sudanese jumping up and down with Somalians. You hear Somalians jumping up and down with Congolese. You get the point, right? Because it's about tribalism and your own different countries of different thought patterns. But tell Black Americans, y'all just call yourself African. You get out of here with that tactic. Black Americans have their own cultural context. And unfortunately, there have been some ones that have practiced some Pan-Africanism that got their woke-up call and go in certain parts of Africa, the ones applies to. Because you got no one part of Africa don't want to be African themselves. And you got what, the Boers in South Africa? They be like, don't even think about trying to call us African, because we're not. What about the numbers of Chinese people in Africa, right? That in apartheid, where they was complaining about the government, wherever it is, before and a little bit afterwards, how they was going through stuff and how they had to be citizens, and they became citizens. Various parts of Chinese people. Do you think you'll call them Africans? No. You see how that game goes. But I don't want to go into all that. That's a whole different topic in itself. But again, I'm just saying Black Americans are told this to be open to all people. While at the same time, basically, you like, where's all these people out trying to help Black Americans who set the foundation of this country up to help many of them come up to this country from them fleeing, doing supplies to. This right here, Mexico, I did a podcast on this particular part of this image as well. This is the California. Big old giant Mexican flag on top of this border break illegal immigrant on top of somebody's car. I think this is a police car or some other car, wherever it is, right? And they were blocking traffic, throwing rocks and doing this vandalism things, all kind of wild stuff in America, and got this big old giant Mexican flag, right? And you got people that are complaining, oh my goodness, no, you can't be talking about no ICE and sending national troops. You can't, how dare you do that? The nerve. Now let Anglo citizens go across that southern border and go create havoc. Let Black Americans go across that border and cause havoc and be throwing rocks and doing crazy stuff toward police cars and protesting in front of the legislation buildings. I mean, you know how fast they would get kicked out of Mexico, but no. Within Americanism, there are certain people who want agendas that they're trying to push a immigrationist, a border break illegal immigrants type situation to buffer out various parts of American Blacks, right? The nerve, when you look at this picture right here, this is in America that happened only a few months ago. But at the same time, when you start talking about things like this, you start talking about, well, what about this right here? Come about to finish up the show. What about this history of Black Americans right here? Colored, waiting room, private property, no parking. Driving through or turning around. This is why I can't stand the usage of genericality of saying people of color. You said, what does a people of color look like? And unfortunately, they know millions of American Blacks allow people to play that silly little tactic. Well, we're people of color. The hell you are the one that play that tactic. Right? This was going on in the 50s, people. Going on the 60s. These various people of color didn't even exist like that in America. And their numbers were so minuscule, barely on the radar, not worth even talking about. And how many people now play people of color games? You even have, unfortunately, certain numbers of personnel within primate culture. I've heard too many of them say, well, you know, people of color people. You be like, no, the hell you talking about? But they've been great because many of them have no clue. Ain't no being American, still don't know Black Americans' history. Talking about people of color. Right? And what about this?
Where does it come from? All this hatred. Do you think it might be a little more serious than missing persons?
I don't think so, boy.
Some things are worth dying for.
You admire these kids, don't you?
Don't you?
Did it ever occur to them they would end up dead?
Maybe. I'm looking for some information.
I ain't got nothing to say to you, sir. Afternoon, ladies.
Do you honestly think you people be down here at all going for those two white boys?
Maybe not, miss.
This is.
I guess he's over here. And I'm here to tell you our neighbors were happy. There was decent color. Kids came out here stirring things up. Before that, there wasn't anybody complaining. Nobody dared.
What's wrong with these people?
Nobody dared.
What's wrong with these people?
Mississippi Burning, a great movie based upon some true type stories, right? Many people don't even know that fled to various countries and places, have no clue about things like this. but it wasn't Black Americans to sit there and help other people out first. You see how the insulting of that. Many have no clue about real American history, which includes Black Americans' history. Have no clue. Well, Black Americans are lazy. How about go to hell? The person that couldn't sit there and get things done in their own country. Well, American Blacks have their own towns and their own places, hospitals, banks, etc. And you have violent type of racism, hatred type, known as the personal predominant culture, destroying, fire booming, various town, black town, stuff like that. People coming up with racial racism, still terrorism, laws and policies. That was still going on in the 50s and the 60s, which was less than 100 years ago in America, where still the majority of immigration type personnel weren't even in America then. And the ones who were in America were a small smattering in America, especially the ones that had black skin, but not Black American. Smattering of a smidgen of demographical small numbers. And again, I'm talking about some of the good brothers and sisters, modern day. Because again, overallness, the system is not going to allow good ones to come over to America like that. They're going to allow self-hatred ones that have animosity toward Black Americans because Black Americans don't flee. But they still don't have any clue about real Black American history, right? And what about this one right here? What about this?
Walked out of the Democratic convention, formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroes into the Southern people.
Governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroes into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
That was less than 100 years ago, people. 40s, mid to late 1940s, that video was about. That's less than 100 years ago. But at the same time, you have all these various types of immigration groups, various types of border break illegal immigrants that are escaping violence, scamming, assaultness, political corruption, brutality situation in their own countries and islands, and etc. But at the same time, the one suppliers who have the nerve to talk about Black Americans, when they couldn't even survive even a small part of what Black Americans have been through in America. And again, I'm not talking about sellouts and coon versions. The ones that have a truly sickening within themselves because it's so much Black pain, right? But at the same time, they want Black Americans to just not pay attention to things like this, and other various people within predominant culture too. Don't pay attention to this. Right? And I'm not talking about the hatred versions, the clan type ones within various parts of predominant culture, direct and indirect. Look at this. But especially toward Black Americans, Black Americans not supposed to be paying attention to this. They're supposed to be like, hey, don't worry about that. Don't know anything about people like this. Don't know anything about them, but they're supposed to look the other way, not pay attention to this going on every day somewhere in America. especially toward the southern states and various areas like that, and some other state and some other places in the country. How many times this happen every day somewhere in some kind of fashion? Be it like this directly or indirectly, right? How many times? But again, they don't want Black Americans to pay attention to these kind of things. Just be open, right? To border break illegal immigrant type people, right? Or immigrationists. That how many of them couldn't give a damn about Black Americans? That they over here, they fled from getting taxpayers assisted money, helping them out with work, helping out with vouchers and housing vouchers and all this kind of stuff like that, especially before the Trumpism came to power. And what about after Trumpism, right? So in 2020, after that election, right? What about if various things can go right back, right? The nerve. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP show.